Now it's time for a true spooky Halloween story. This actually happened many years ago when one of my daughters turned 13. She said to me what she wanted was a Ouija board. Now, because of the way I'd grown up, I didn't really think anything of that because in my family, that was quite common. I'm talking about my nanny and her family. They were into all seances and Ouija boards and that kind of thing, so I just grew up accepting that. So when I was about 13, I was there when a seance was being conducted by my cousin and all of her friends. And the table actually rose up during the seance, a really big heavy table elevated. Of course, I never really did know if my cousin and all her friends were just lifting that table to freak me out. But my cousin assured me that the table really had lifted, and I was very freaked out. Anyway, so that kind of thing was normal. My nan was well known to be the seventh daughter of a seventh daughter. And as you might have heard, they're known to have kind of abilities, psychic abilities and so forth, if you're the seventh daughter of a seventh daughter. So anyway, that's the way I grew up. I didn't think much of it. So when my daughter asked me for a Ouija board, I was like, sure, why not? And we went to the shop where she'd been checking out the one she wanted, and I bought her a Ouija board. Now that was my mistake, first of all. This Ouija board was a stone Ouija board, like very well made. I think it was very expensive at the time, but it was her 13th birthday, so why not? She got what she wanted and she had her friend over that night. Anyway, while I was sleeping, they were playing the Ouija board. And in the morning, when I got up, my daughter said to me they'd been in contact with a spirit that night. I forget his name, let's just call him Bill. And the spirit had informed them that he was a 19-year-old boy who'd been killed in a car accident nearby many years ago, and he was feeling lonely and he'd like to come and live with us. So of course I said, what? No way, you tell Bill he is not to come and live with us. But sadly, Bill did move in, and all these weird and unexplained things started happening in the home. And my daughter repainted her bedroom lime green and put all these horrible pictures all over the wall. Well, she thought they were great, but to me they were really horrible and creepy. Ones of Marilyn Manson and Slipknot, and I don't know who else she had up there, but that Slipknot was very disturbing with their horrible masks they wore, and Marilyn Manson had these piercing, strange blue eyes, inhuman blue eyes looking out of the picture. He must have been wearing contact lenses. Well, I hope he was, and he didn't really have eyes like that. And all over the walls were these horrible, what I considered horrible pictures. And then she had these heavy dark curtains on that didn't let in any light. And this went on for some time, and weird things were happening. One daughter was out in her caravan and she'd see evil red eyes looking at her in the middle of the night, or there'd be a green a ghost girl head whirling around laughing just ahead. So she was having terrible experiences out in the caravan, and meanwhile things were happening in our house, like unexplainable things. And we ended up calling my daughter's room, the one decorated the way she liked it, that became known as the dungeon. And I just used to keep the door closed and keep going. I never used to go in that room because I didn't like the vibes it gave off. Anyway, one night my daughter was away for the night, and I was in the bedroom with my husband, who was snoring like a freight train, as he used to do. He's got a machine now that he breathes into, and he doesn't snore anymore, so that's wonderful. But back in the day, none of us got any sleep with his snoring, and he was particularly bad this night, snoring like a big train. And I was lying next to him as it echoed through the house. I had to get up for work early in the morning, and I was like, I can't take this anymore. I know. My daughter's bedroom's free. She's away for the night. I'm going to go and sleep in there. Anyway, it seemed like a good idea at the time. I went into the dungeon, and I lay down on the bed to go to sleep. But you know what? As I walked in, I saw that Marilyn Manson's eyes following me across the room, or so it seemed to me. His eyes were following me as I walked to the bed. And then Slipknot's up there with their horrible faces looking at, and all the other pictures looking at me. And I lied down on the bed, but all those eyes were piercing at me, and I just felt this really horrible presence in the room. And I'm trying to put it out of my head. Don't be silly, Lisa. You gotta go to sleep. You gotta get up early in the morning. Just close your eyes. And I closed my eyes to try and sleep, but the eyes were piercing at me. And the next minute, a heavy weight came on my chest, and my whole body became unable to move. And this weight is pressing, pressing, pressing on my chest, and I couldn't breathe and I couldn't move. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die here. And I just thought, I've got to get out. And I just summoned all my energy and stood up and ran out of that room. And I looked at the clock, and I swear to you, as I'm standing here, it seemed like I'd been in there for hours, and only 30 seconds had passed on the clock. Anyway, the next day I struggled off to work, having had no sleep after that experience, and I just decided what I'm going to do, because we just started going to church there at Caves Beach in Newcastle. We had a nice pastor there, so I've rung him up on the phone, and I'm like, you've got to come around. I think my house is possessed. Can you come around and help us? And God bless him, he turned up, and he saw what was going on in the dungeon, and he was like, Lisa, you've got to get rid of all this stuff, and you've got to get rid of the Ouija board, and we've got to open up the curtains and get rid of everything. We've got to burn it all. And I was like, oh, but if I do that, my daughter, she's going to be very upset. And he's like, well, it's up to you. Do you want to keep living in a possessed house, or do you want to be free of it? And I just made the decision, right, we're going to be free from it. And so I said, yes, let's do it. And so everyone was there. We just started ripping all those horrible pictures off the wall, and we're throwing open the curtains and let in the fresh air and sunlight. And then the priest is going around and he's blessing the house in the name of Jesus. Spirits be gone. He's gone through every room, but he spent a lot of time in that particular room spirits be gone. He's splashing holy water and oil around. And then we took all the stuff out, all the posters of all those evil, weird-eyed things. And he lit a bonfire out the back. So you got to imagine this. We're living in suburbia. It's the middle of the day on a Saturday, and he's got a big bonfire going in a 44-gallon drum, and he's yelling out at the top of his voice, "In the name of Jesus, spirits be gone." And he grabs that Ouija board and he starts smashing it, and he's smashing it and yelling out, "In the name of Jesus, you are gone." And he smashed that Ouija board all to pieces and burnt the lot. And then he left. I really don't know what the neighbours were thinking, but that was quite a day. Anyway, my daughter came back. Well, that wasn't good. She was very upset that we'd done that to her room. But I tried to explain that it was for the best, and that, the evil spirits were possessing the house and we had to do something. So I'm sorry I kind of destroyed your room the way you like it, but this is the way it is now because we can't have those spirits hanging around. So hopefully she got over that experience. But you know what? She's quite old. Well, she's not quite old. Sorry about that, darling. But she's a lot older now and she has her own family. But she said to me one day, she said, "Do you know I've looked for the rest of my life since you smashed that Ouija board. I've been looking for one the same so I could get another one, and I have never found one the same." And when I think back to think that it was on her 13th birthday, you all know about the number 13, that Ouija board came into our life and just appeared in the shop for us to buy. And she's been looking for one like that ever since and never been able to find one. So what does that tell you? It was kind of like it was put there for that to happen. So that is my true Halloween scary spooky story. And I'd just like it to be a lesson. If there's any children watching, take it from Granny Cooper. Never, ever, ever muck around with Ouija boards, 'cause only bad will come from that. Okay, and that's the end of my story. I hope you enjoyed it.